Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast where this town ain't big enough for the both of us. I'm Chris Daly, and today I'd like to welcome to the show Silas Dunn and CJ Patereau. Guys, how's it going today?
Good, man. Good. Everything's kicking, man.
Right on. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys. I talked to Gerald von Stoddard recently, and he said you gotta get on with Silas and talk to Silas and CJ. And I was like, all right, let's make this happen.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, he was pretty pumped about it too. So
That's awesome.
it's good to know.
I'm excited that you guys are here.
Yeah, man. Me too.
All right, well, I like to start these things off with an icebreaker question usually. So tonight's icebreaker question, would you rather have the power of teleportation or flying?
I'm gonna go with teleportation because it's just much more time effective.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. CJ,
See,
what about you?
mine was more physical properties. I'm not a short man, so I hit my head on various things in general. So I think flying, I'd be kind of wary of what I might hit my head on up in the air. So I think teleportation would also be my answer, but for a different reason than Silas had.
That's fair. I think I'm just going to round it out and give us the clean sweep. And I'm going to take teleportation as well, just because I'm lazy.
Fair.
And if I can get somewhere faster, then I'm going to do it. Because why not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you can teleport into a bank vault. You can't fly into a bank vault, you know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, guys. So when you're not making comics, when you're not reading or writing, excuse me, what do you guys like to do for fun? CJ, let's start with you.
I am into a lot of theater stuff. So I when I'm not headfirst into writing, and Silas and I make films also, and so I love performing.
Nice.
I love being on stage. I love being on film. I just love putting any kind of creative feelers out there that I can.
That's awesome. Silas, what about you?
Yeah, like CJ said, we also make film together, so I write and direct. But I play a lot of video games, watch a lot of TV, I watch a lot of baseball.
Nice.
But yeah, mostly, it's a lot of planning films, trying to make stuff happen, doing our thing, and then and I read a lot too. So I read a lot of comics and I read a lot of books, and yeah.
Nice. Do you have a favorite author?
Yeah, Ed Brubaker is my favorite comic author.
Nice.
James Tynion is right there though too. I've been reading a lot of him recently.
Okay.
But yeah, I like the gritty, like pulpy, occasionally creepy. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. And what about games? Do you have a console you prefer?
Yeah, I'm PS5. My favorite game of all time is The Last of Us. I mean, it's
nice.
so good, dude. Yeah.
Very cool.
But Uncharted is up there too. Yeah, but I play sports games. I've been playing Off the Grid a ton recently. The new
Nice.
Battle Royale. It's pretty fun. It's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And rock a sweet beard, I see, because Silas Gerald told me that you and me are the two of the most awesome beards that he's ever seen in comics.
I know. He said that this podcast was going to be too powerful in terms of beard strength, and I was like, he's not wrong. He's clearly not wrong.
Yeah, dude.
That's
I told him, the camera even cuts part of my beard off because if you go down, it goes pretty far.
Yeah.
Got to kind of fit it in the box just to kind of keep it down.
Hell yeah.
Right on. All right, guys. So the holiday season's coming up pretty soon. Do you guys have any holiday traditions that you recognize yourself with your family, anything like that?
I don't. I mean, this will be my first holiday outside of just getting together with my immediate and somewhat extended family. We usually get together with my dad's side, but I will be joining my girlfriend to her family down in LA this year. So
nice.
Be a change up, but I'm looking forward to it.
Very cool. I remember my first holiday with my girlfriend / now my wife. So yeah, it's kind of a neat experience. it's neat and it's sad because you've got all those traditions baked in with your family that you've done forever. And you don't necessarily get to do those for the first time. You don't get to, but for the first time you get to experience all these brand new traditions. So that's very cool. I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Silas, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going down to San Diego. My sister and her husband and kids live down a little bit outside of San Diego, so I'll be going down there, and you know, my parents will come out, and we've been doing that for a few years now since they moved out there, and so it's just kind of my parents live up in Minnesota, so it's like it's harder to get up there, and it's
Sure.
colder.
Yeah,
It's a whole thing.
for sure.
So yeah, but it's nice. It's nice to be semi close to everything still, and it's not I do that drive. It's not too bad. So yeah,
And it's warm.
and it's warm. It's true. It's not -12. Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm in Idaho, so it's a little bit chilly here. I think today we were at like 45, something like that ish. So
Okay.
that's about the warmest it's getting lately. It's not gotten
Yeah.
super cold yet, but we're
We're not too cold here. I'm in Monterey, so we get a little colder than like SoCal does, but it's not too bad. We've been like 40, 48 in the mornings up to like 55. But dude,
nice.
my mom told me the other day they were at -2 when she woke up, and I was like, that is terrible. You have to like warm. If you walk outside, you will die. Just
Yeah.
if you accidentally find yourself outside,
Yep.
you will die.
I think we'll probably get there eventually, but I think we're another month or two away from that. So I'm just
Well, then the crazy thing is, in those 2 months, they'll be down to like -30, which is disgusting.
yeah.
That's nature telling you not to live there.
But I mean, to be fair, I always take the mantra, I live where the air hurts my face, because I don't have to deal with random lizards all over the place or giant spiders or anything
That's
like that. I
true.
mean, to for their credit, I still get some pretty decent sized spiders in the summertime, but not any kind of spider that's like as big as my hand or anything like that. So
No,
I'll take living where the air hurts my face and not have to deal with that kind of stuff.
I hear you. I hear you.
Right on. All right, guys. So you guys mentioned that you both do a lot of writing, whether it's comics or whether it's, writing, directing movies or shows or whatever. So I want to know what it is that got you guys originally interested in becoming writers in the first place.
Okay, CJ, you want to take that one first?
Sure. I think my theater background was part of what kind of spurred it along. Just finding new ways to tell stories in general, and sort of thinking to myself while just jotting down random ideas in high school, just sort of saying, maybe this could be something, not really having any plan for it, but sort of getting past that part of my brain and just saying, whether it's going to be something or not, just see where it goes. And
That's
then
awesome.
when Silas and I met, that was that was one of the first things that we talked about.
Yeah.
So it just gelled beautifully.
That's cool. So what about you?
Yeah, I've been writing. Like, I started writing poetry when I was like in elementary school, and I would write like prose and stuff. And then I wrote some short story, and I had like my 8th grade English teacher was like, "Hey, this feels like it would be a script," and so she gave me a little book on screenwriting, and she was like, "I want you to turn this into a script." So I did, and it was terrible. But then I liked it, and I kept going and kept doing it, and wrote through high school, and then for a long time I wanted to be an actor, and then I decided I didn't really want to do that anymore, and I wanted to tell actors what to do, so I started directing, and then CJ and I met, and we almost immediately were like, oh shit, we should write together, and so we did, and so we just kind of started throwing ideas out, and we wrote. It started as like little things, and then it became, we wrote a couple web series together, and then we'd write some longer things. We'd write a film together. We'd write a pilot together, whatever. And then we just kind of sort of fell into like, when we made the leap to comics and we started really pursuing it, it just made sense that the two of us would do this together, and that we'd just we'd write these stories together. So that's, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, it's always nice to, get out there and stretch your creative muscle and get, your writing out in the world. But when you
Mhm.
find that writing partner that just meshes so well with, that kind of just is like the other half of your brain almost,
Mhm.
it's kind of like magic. So that's very cool you guys were able to make
Yeah,
it happen because I,
yeah,
I
man.
I've been in that position before and it's really cool where, you've got someone that can almost finish your thought before you do and just has
Yeah,
similar ideas to what you have. So that's really
yeah,
cool that you guys were able to make that happen. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Now, what was it that I'm not sure how to ask this. What was it exactly that made you guys go the transition to, hey, let's try our hand at writing a comic book? Like what was your inspiration for that?
Yeah, it was a lot of it was that we had been. I mean, so we've been working on lots of films together. We've been writing short form stuff. We've been writing, longer form stuff. We've been just kind of trying to figure out what was, what we were going to be able to do. We did a couple of, littler projects, and then the strikes happened, and I mean, we both love comics. We both been reading them. We both, we do a lot of that stuff, and so I was just like, you know what, we have a buddy who did, he did a cover. His name's He did a cover for Devil's Gate, and he's the inks and colors for the last comic that we did, and he's phenomenal. And so we kind of talked with him and just decided like, hey, this makes sense to work with this artist buddy that we know. Let's do something bigger than what we've been doing, and it just kind of made sense. And so we threw our ideas together and we figured out what we wanted to do first, and that is what happened with Crux. And then with the Devil's Gate, we walked into like this idea of I think the two of us have been working on westerns for a long time. We've been trying to develop a western. We've had an idea here, we've had an idea here. We've like meshed them together. We've pulled them apart. Like we've done all this stuff, but it's never fully materialized. And so I think finally we realized like, okay, comics are the medium that lets us tell the story the way we want to without having to compromise, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I can tell Gerald anything. We can give him anything on page, and he's going to make it better than we wrote it. Right? I mean, it's going to look better than I imagined it. It's going to be cooler. It's going to be grosser. It's going to be bloodier. Like whatever he's going to do. Whereas it's not always possible in film, at least on a shoestring budget, right? Where
Sure.
it's like, I mean, I don't have the money to shove a knife into a guy's gut and make it gross, right? Like unless it's real, right? But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not doing that. And so yeah, I mean, CJ, tell me if I'm wrong, but like, I feel like we just kind of realized like the story we wanted to tell right now, comics was the only way to do it, right? It's just this is what, this is the best medium for us to work in right now because it's so, I mean, by definition, it's so visual and it's so visceral.
Sure.
And we get to tell a story without compromising, and I think that's the most important thing for story. I think when you compromise for money, for studio, for whatever it is, right? Anytime you're compromising, I think you're losing what makes your story important, or what makes it you, or what makes it crazy, or whatever it is. And I think, and so I think comics has let us not have to compromise, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and I think especially being able to bring in people like Gerald and and like who Silas mentioned that we work with, um, being able to bring other people who have a completely different skill set to us, but that we absolutely need, and kind of just mesh creatively and come up with something really cool
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what we want to do with writing anyway. And so being able to put that on paper and put that on people's shelves and have something that you can physically hold in your hand and say,
Mm-hmm.
this is really cool. I really like this, for
Mm-hmm.
us and for whoever happens to want to read what we write. But that's
That's
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
very cool.
And I think from coming from film, like we've I mean, even when we were doing film, it's all so collaborative, right? Like there's so much about the film process that I don't do well, or I don't do as well as somebody else is going to do. And I'd rather bring in somebody who can help us tell the story that we need to tell the best way. And I'm going to fully trust them to do what they do. And that's kind of the process that CJ and I go through with art, especially, and art from Gerald and colors from Lorenzo, and even letters from, we're working with Rob Jones, like even all that stuff. Like, I just want I want the team that we bring in. Clearly there's a reason we're working with these guys, right? Like, Gerald is a phenomenal interior artist. Lorenzo is doing phenomenally with the colors, right? And so I want them to just be able to do their work. And like, yeah, we've got, we have notes. It's like, we have little things that we're like, okay, here's what we want. But like, I know that the best product is going to come from letting our team do what they do, because I can't, right? Like, right. At the end of the day, the only thing I'm going to be good at is writing it on paper. After that, I know the medium well enough to understand it, but like, I'm not an artist, right? So I'd much rather have, I want to give I want to give our team the trust and the freedom to make the best product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, speaking of your comic, The Devil's Gate, for those of you that out there that have never heard of it, why don't you give us an elevator pitch about what The Devil's Gate is about?
I feel like I've been talking a lot. CJ, you want to take this?
Sure. Pardon me, keep clearing my throat here. So The Devil's Gate is a classic revenge Western told through the medium of a comic in a place where a little more of the grit, a little more of the reason behind what our revenge seeking character is after tends to be a little more missing in Western comics. That, and we've incorporated a little bit of a creepy horror element into it. Our main character, John Glass, has his brother brutally murdered by a group of ex-Confederates, and he goes on a search for all of the men who tortured and killed his brother and tries to bring them all down. And he ends up in a town called Heaven's Gate, Arizona, that's essentially led by a very enigmatic preacher with some dark secrets. And he finds out that not only does he have to face what he had come to town for initially, but whatever this looming threat is that seems to be centered at the church.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
So we take tropes from we take tropes from like Westerns and films and all that stuff. Like, we're taking tropes from, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the Dollars trilogy, Django, even, classic Western stuff, like John Hillcoat's The Proposition, right? It's like, it's brutal, it's gritty, it's all this stuff. But then we're also taking the horror cues from things like even like The Last of Us and Bone Tomahawk and Blood Meridian. And so it gets, even right off the bat, anybody who's taken a look at the Kickstarter, even right off the bat, it gets gnarly quick. Yeah. Like, it's intense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super awesome. I saw those first couple of preview pages and they just look incredible.
Yeah, dude. Exciting. Yeah, we just threw up the inks for the fourth. Gerald just got those done. We threw that up, and it's getting nuts, dude. Guys about to get disemboweled and strung up. It's gonna be crazy.
That's awesome. So, how did you guys come up with the original idea for Devil's Gate?
I think we had, like, sort of like I had said, we had been working on Westerns. I'd thrown around some ideas for a TV show and for a feature, and CJ had thrown around some ideas for a feature and a TV show, and we kind of hook all of that because both of us love Westerns, right? They're awesome, and I think there isn't enough of them, right?
Absolutely.
And so we took all those ideas and kind of molded them together, and we created this world that kind of took the best pieces of all of our ideas and the best pieces of a lot of things that we love, and we just kind of, we kind of mixed them together, and we wanted it to be this just gritty, kind of gross, very strange feeling Western that almost just the whole time you're just unsettled, right? It's like, what the fuck is going on here from page one, right?
Sure. So when you guys were kind of getting in the headspace to kind of do the writing for it, did you, just draw off of those inspirations that you had mentioned before? Like what was it that got you in your headspace to get ready to write Devil's Gate?
I think rewatching the projects that Silas mentioned and kind of just talking through what we wanted to, not only what needed to be essential for the story that we wanted to tell, but also what we wanted to see on the page. And another big piece of inspiration, at least from my side when we started writing The Devil's Gate, was just playing through Red Dead 2 and just writing out and just seeing what we can find. I think there are a couple of moments later on in the series that were really heavily inspired by the Night Folk in Red Dead Redemption 2. But at the beginning of summer, when we decided we wanted to do this idea, we just sort of said, we were in different places, but we just said, let's just jump on a call whenever we can and just talk these ideas out back and forth and see where this is going to go from where we know we're starting and where we know we want to end, and kind of just organically see where these characters all go.
Nice. So speaking of that process, excuse me, I apologize. What are your guys' plans for the Devil's Gate? In theory, if you get all the funding you needed, do you have plans for like a mini series? Is it like kind of like a long running series? Where do you guys see?
Yeah, so we have plans so book one is all set in Heaven's Gate, Arizona, and it is 13 issues. And then but then we have a plan for book two, which would be honestly more of a Last of Us style, like cross country. We need to get from here to here, and we're seeing a lot of the stuff that's kind of happening across the country and we're changing. At that point, we get to see different landscapes that aren't often explored in Westerns, right? So for book two, we'd get to see, New Orleans, and we'd get to see Mexico potentially, right? We get to see like coastal Mexico, right? We're going to get to see just even through some of the northern states and all that stuff, where I think Westerns don't often, based on the term Western, right? You don't often see the other side of the country.
Yeah.
But it's this, so we have these plans to take John through post Civil War US and how the landscape is changing and how everything is, a new era is coming, right? And civilization is starting to expand. But, so we have plans for many, many issues, 13 in story arc 1, 13 in story arc 2, and, so on from there. So the plan is to continue on for a good amount of time.
Very cool. Now, you guys have it on Kickstarter right now for issue 1. It looks like your Kickstarter ends December 11th, so a little over a week. Why don't we talk a little bit about the Kickstarter and what you guys have available on the Kickstarter?
Yeah. Let me pull it up real quick so I can not, so I can know that I'm saying the right stuff. So yeah, we've got a digital edition available. We've got all 3 covers available right now. One of them is a Kickstarter exclusive, the Red series, and with that, you'll also get a signed print by who did the Red series cover. You'll get a print of that art, and then right now we've got cover A, which is done by Gerald, which is awesome, and I think it's good to have the main cover be your interior artist. I think it kind of lets you, gives you immediately kind of a vision into what's coming.
Sure.
And then cover B is done by Hernan Gonzalez, who is phenomenal. And we're going to continue to have him do covers for any future issues. He's a crazy artist. He's so good. And then we've got a bundle which will give you a physical copy of Devil's Gate #1 as well as Crux #1, which was our last comic, which we're just starting to print now. And then you can grab a signed copy. You can grab a pack of all 3 covers. For $250, you can get yourself a producer credit, which will be credited at the front pages, and you'll get to have a Zoom call with me, CJ, and Gerald.
That's cool.
And kind of we're going to kind of talk. Anybody who does that, we're going to do a Zoom call, and we're going to talk them through, what's next for Devil's Gate, and we're going to kind of give them an insight into what the plan is and sort of more details about the story. And then we have an add-on that Gerald created, which are going to be metal trading cards, and you have one for John Glass, and you have one for Father Nobody, who is the creepy priest. And they're incredible. The art that Gerald did are phenomenal, and you didn't hear it from me, but I think he might be planning on using something similar for the cover of issue 2.
Very cool.
But yeah, he's so good. I mean, you talked to him for a good chunk of time. He's an incredible dude. Yeah,
he's a great guy for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So Kickstarter, like I said, is going until December 11th. Make sure you check it out before you run out of time. We'll make sure we put the link in the show notes. We'll put the link shared on social media and all that stuff, so everyone listening there'll be no excuse to not check it out. All right. So after this Kickstarter wraps up, what do you guys have next that you can talk about?
Right now, we're working on a couple things. The plan, even if this Kickstarter doesn't work out, we're going to keep doing art. Is going to continue to be made for Devil's Gate. We're going to continue going through, and then we're going to pitch to all the normal. We're going to pitch to Image. We're going to pitch to Dark Horse. If the Kickstarter doesn't go through, obviously, if it does, we're going to move on to issue 2 as well. We're going to start. I mean, we've started writing the whole book 1 is outlined. We've started writing issue 2. But one of the next projects we're planning is a period piece set in Shanghai in 1938.
Oh, cool.
Called Even God Sleeps, and it's about this insomniac detective who is an expat. He's he's American, and he's kind of relegated himself to the back streets of Shanghai, and he a young working girl is murdered, and he wakes up in his loft in his apartment, covered in blood, and he doesn't know if he did it. He's he's an insomniac. He's going a little crazy, and so the whole time he's this he's an unreliable narrator from the get-go, right? He's like, he talks he's talking in fragmented sentences. He's doing all this stuff, so it's this kind of, it's this very violent, pulpy detective noir set in Shanghai in the 30s, and it's going to kind of mold the feel of like LA noir with the action of things like Gangs of London, and it's the pulpy nature of like a Brubaker or a James Tynion or something like that, and it's this just gritty kind of crazy thing where we're not sure who to root for.
That sounds rad.
Yeah, man, we're excited. We're working with Hernan, who did cover B for us for Devil's Gate. He's doing the interior art, and then we're bringing back our same colorist Lorenzo to do that as well, which is gonna be cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. All right, gentlemen. Well, before I let you go, I always like to have people I talk to for the first time give a little bit of advice to people who want to be creatives out there. So why don't you each hit me with some advice?
Mine would be just kind of playing off of what I mentioned earlier about where I got my start in writing, is just whatever your creativity is, whatever your passion is, whatever you feel like you're driven to, no matter what it feels like you could get out of it, do it. Just dive in head first and just explore wherever in your brain you feel like is open to explore, and you'll at least find some joy in being able to make something, even if it's just for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say you got to stick with it, right? It's not gonna. Sometimes it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard. There are gonna be days where you're like, man, what is going on, right? I have days like that all the time, but if you love creating, if you want to be, if you're trying to get into comics, if you want to get into film, anything, you just got to keep going, right? Like you gotta, if it's what you love, there are going to be people in your life that are going to tell you it's kind of crazy. There are going to be people in your life that don't really understand the logic of, continuing to do something that isn't always as fulfilling as you might want it to be.
Yeah.
But at the end, I think it's going to be fulfilling, right? There's going to be a point where you go, oh shit, this is what I've been doing this for, right? Like there's going to be a moment where you're like, this is all the hard work. This is what it culminated in. And this is why I'm doing this. And I think those moments are going to come more and more often the more you do this. And I mean, even just through the Kickstarter community and working on comics, CJ and I have met some phenomenal people. I mean, yourself included. And we met Gerald through that, and we met Lorenzo and Hernan and all this stuff. And so it's been a lot of fun to meet people that are also, intent on being creative. And I think that's one of the other important things is you got to surround yourself with other people who are also doing it, because you're going to get to see how, fulfilled this is making other people. And that's going to help you kind of push through some of the bad days and push through some of the, some of the rough days. And then the last thing would be just, as much as you're creating, also consume the same kind of content, right? Like, they say writers read, right? It's true of comics too. If you're writing comics, you got to go read the stuff you're writing, right? You got to go read the same genres and different genres. You got to read everything. You got to go read stuff and understand the medium. And I think that'll boost creativity as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good advice too. It's hard to keep that creative fire going if you don't have people around you cultivating the creativity, because a lot of times not only will they help you, you in turn will help them. So it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that having that kind of creative community is definitely beneficial for everyone, whether you make stuff by yourself or you make stuff in a duo or you make stuff with a group of people. I think it's always nice just to have someone there in the trenches with you, like kind of nudging you along, like, hey, you're doing a good job, like keep going, like, definitely don't give up. Those, and like you said, for the hard days, it makes the hard days a lot easier that way. Definitely for sure. And it's very important, I think, also, to do it for the love of it, not for any other reason. Because I know a lot of people will do a thing, for the attention or for the attaboys, or just for the instant gratification of just doing it. Like, I'm going to do this just so you'll tell me that I'm good at this. Like, they're not doing it because they really want to, and that, I think that's doing it for the wrong reasons. So yeah, I think you're right. You really have to love what you do in order to wanting to keep doing it, because if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, then it's going to make those hard days a hell of a lot harder, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, guys. Where can we keep up to date with stuff coming from you in the future? Where can we keep up to date with more Devil's Gate?
I'm on Instagram at usually Silas, and our comics publisher, as we're building it, is also on Instagram at Mass Upset Comics. And then the same thing with our film company, Mass Upset Media, also on Instagram.
And I am a little less active on my personal Instagram, but my Instagram is at CJ the Person.
That's awesome. And usually Silas, that's an awesome handle. All right, now to keep up to date with me, check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Field by Weird. feelbyweird@gmail.com. Hit me up for anything you want to talk about. I also want to thank Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the song I use for the show. They're a great band and it's a fantastic song, so go check them out on Bandcamp and show them some love.
Hell
You
yeah.
can also find Fueled by Weird on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and now also on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Manroom show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Now, the Stay Weird Network, it's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. Check us out on YouTube and Instagram at Stay Weird Network and shoot us an email at stayweirdnetwork@gmail.com. Also, I want to make sure I thank my sponsors, the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia, your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. Now, if you like the show, please like, subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends, because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. CJ, Silas, thanks for joining me tonight, guys.
Chris, thank you so much.
Absolutely.